Conditioning your mind. The human mind is amazing. You need to remember that the organ in your head has been responsible for building civilizations, going to space, and creating the screen you're looking at right now. Being the most evolved creature on the planet, we can do many things, but few reach that potential. Some people sit in their cubicles, doing menial tasks for fair pay, when they could be improving themselves and the world around them. By this, we don't mean that everyone has to reinvent the next wheel, but instead live life to the fullest. Take calculated risks, be more confident, and set goals that they'll end up accomplishing. It's difficult to reboot the mind into something that's purpose-oriented, and this is where this book comes into play. In this book, you will learn how you can reprogram your mind to be more positive and bulletproof. No longer will your thoughts be weighed down by doubts, but instead going after your goals despite the risk. And you'll be able to think clearly and decisively. This book is a quick read, designed for the busy world of today, but it'll be able to change your life as you read it from chapter to chapter, just as long as you put in the effort and follow its wisdom. It is imperative that you proceed reading the next chapter once you're able to grasp the previous chapter mindset concepts first. Confront and deal with your inner demons once and for all. The way your mind works has a lot to do with your past, whether you're aware of it or not. You don't need to have a tragic childhood to have had some trauma that prevents you from making it to your full potential. Sometimes an innocent event can shape you without you realizing it. For example, if your parents were overprotective and didn't allow you to dress up your own way or play with your friends, you may be more likely to be codependent when you're an adult. If you grew up in an environment of drugs and alcohol, you may find yourself toughened. Bullied children will grow up to be distrusting adults. This isn't happening in every circumstance, there are deviations, and you need to look at it by a case-by-case basis. Science is never concrete in these situations. But if you've experienced some trauma as a kid, the outlook you have as an adult may change, and you don't know it. It's almost a subliminal change that happens so fast you don't even realize it. Think of your mind as a military base, one that puts up barriers to protect itself. Your mind may have put up its own shield to protect you from your traumas. For example, being bullied as a kid may have taught you to be less trusting of people. If you see someone who is even slightly critical of you, you may get anxious or defensive. And it's understandable as to why that is. You don't want to relive getting pushed around. If your parents got divorced at a young age, you may be less trusting of your partner simply because you don't want to go through the same ordeal, or have a child who would have to experience that. It's natural to be cautious because of what happened in the past. You've seen people who have did what you did and got burned, or you've seen how terrible humanity can be. It's natural that you put up your own shield so you won't be like them. There's only one problem. The shield does not protect you. Like the giant slab of metal it is, the shield around your mind weighs your mind down and prevents you from realizing your full potential. You may not take risks or pursue something because of the shield. You may not go after that woman, or man, because of past rejection. You may not ask for a raise because as a child, you asked for a toy and got yelled at. Humans have evolved to be creatures of survival, so these survival tactics have stayed in our minds, but in modern society, there are some times where we need to drop our shields and go in unarmored. Think about your own shields. Have there ever been regrets you've had because you haven't taken the plunge? Why didn't you do it? What could you have done to do it? Was there some sort of childhood connection preventing you from doing it? You'll need to think hard, as some of these memories have been bottled up. Asking your family about your past can help too. If you think you've found the reason, you obviously haven't cured the trauma holding you back, but instead diagnosed the case. Look at your shield. Is this really your conscious making these decisions for you, or your unconscious pulling the strings from behind? If you want to live a good life, you'll need to live one on your own terms, and not be dictated by something that happened years, possibly decades, ago. A true bulletproof mind doesn't need protection from the mental bullets life throws at you. When you have shields up, you become overly calculative. There's nothing wrong with thinking before you do something. You're probably doing it right if you question if that fishy email saying you can win millions of dollars for a small fee. But sometimes, you'll find yourself overthinking and overanalyzing the world around you, shielding yourself from taking risks and making challenges. A bulletproof mind questions things, but doesn't hold you back when you need to dive in and take that risk. Sometimes, you just need to ask the girl out. Sometimes you just need to be blunt to your boss and ask for a raise. And the way to fix this? Look at the unconscious mind. Your mind may be hiding secrets you don't know about that are locked away, but pounding on their cell so hard they're shaking their surroundings. You need to bring the unconscious into the conscious, and we will tell you how. Awaken your unconscious behavior. Perhaps the tritest explanation of the unconscious mind is the iceberg. The tip of the iceberg jutting from the water is your unconscious, and below the chilly waters is a mammoth of ice, unseen unless you have the right equipment to view it. Due to its mysterious nature, the unconscious mind is still not fully understood, but it's the part of your mind that you can't self-reflect on through conventional means. Besides the repressed traumas, there is a lot of things that an unconscious mind can be made of, including motivations and instincts. You may not know why exactly you grabbed that cookie when you were on the diet, but there is probably an unconscious desire to mess up your diet somewhere in your mind. Habits. Why do you eat food a certain way? How come you bite your fingernails? These habits may have an unconscious action around them. You may be doing these things due to some trauma that you just can't remember. Automatic responses. Do you say sorry even when it's not your fault? There may be an unconscious reason as to why you do that. You don't want the person to get angry at you, and perhaps this is due to an authority figure getting unnecessarily angry at you when you were a child. The unconscious mind has the answers to most of your quirks. But bringing it to the front of your mind isn't easy, and there's no monolithic way for everyone to access it. But here are a few ways you can delve into your unconscious mind. Meditation is perhaps the most obvious one, but plenty of people have been able to go deep into their mind with the power of meditating. There are a million ways to meditate, and you can probably look up some techniques online that best suit you, but the gist of it is that you find a quiet, comfortable place, sit down, breathe deeply, be aware of your body's functions, and dive deep into the mind. Other ways to access your unconscious mind include bringing up some of your repressed memories. These can be done through therapy, or by talking to your family or friends. They may remember something that happened to you that you can't remember for the life of you, and once you hear about it, the floodgates open and your unconscious memory is in the front of your mind. Unconscious memories can stop you from making accomplishments. If you want to pursue a goal, and your unconscious mind tells you it can't be done, you're doomed from the start. Even if you try running after the goal, your unconscious mind will be the sticky tar on the ground, or the foot that trips you. The game will be over before you even played it. The race will end before you break a sweat. You get our drift. Now, once you stop yourself from saying no, that doesn't mean that everything you want to pursue will come to you. People will still say no to you. You may end up losing something after taking a risk. Usually, the voice in your head saying no has concerns that stem from a kernel of truth. But having a bulletproof mind means accepting that losing is fine sometimes. The best people in the world failed multiple times before they succeeded. That star basketball player missed so many shots before he could shoot three-pointers like it was nothing. That best-selling author got rejected hundreds of times before finding someone who would publish her work. These people have bulletproof minds. When that basketball player missed a shot, he didn't think, maybe I should give up basketball, but instead, I wonder how I can shoot better next time. That isn't to say they had doubts, but their resolve overpowered any doubts and made them into the people they are today. Every time you face an obstacle, you don't need to cry and think that it's over. Instead, you turn it into positivity. We all know the battle between optimists and pessimists, and realists too, where some say it's better to see the bright side of things, while others believe that you should look at the bad side. But positive people do end up having the push to go forward, which is what most pessimists lack. There is a bit of nuance to this, which we'll talk about later, but the general idea is that you'll benefit by thinking more positively. You turn on the news and see the latest political outrage. Everything is doom and gloom. Positivity seems delusional. That's what society wants you to think. However, All of mankind's accomplishments have been due to a positive desire to want something. The cavemen wanted a way to push things around, so they carved the wheel. The person who invented the automobile thought of a world where people could travel more freely, and created a machine that could do that. By thinking about what holds you back, you'll be able to think about your decisions with a clearer lens, and hopefully look at life from a different angle, regardless of whether you win or lose. We realize this book won't change your thinking overnight, and even if you become more positive, you'll still have your doubts and maybe even end up succumbing to them. After all, bulletproof doesn't mean completely impervious to bullets. You still get shot while wearing a bulletproof vest, and it hurts. But it doesn't kill. You want a mind that can still keep going regardless of your fears. How to awaken your unconsciousness. Begin by noticing all your quirks. If you can't figure out any, speak to your co-workers, friends, spouse, or family, as they can point out the little quirks you otherwise don't notice yourself. Write them all down, and try to figure out why you do it. You may not solve the mystery of your unconscious instantly, but this can allow you to get some clues to get you started. Every time you perform a subconscious action, put it into a mental note. Do this for something that you want to fix, be it anger or frustration. Try to control that emotion from letting it all out. Take small risks to see small changes in life. By not taking chances is equivalent to no changes in your life and then moving on towards bigger risks to tackle. Reclaim the empathy and kindness that is lost within you. Empathy is the ability to see it through someone else's eyes. You know how the person is feeling, how they see the world, can feel their emotions, and so forth. It's not to be confused with sympathy, which is what you wish on someone who suffers misfortune. Sympathy is usually passive, while empathy is active. A bulletproof mind is always active, so you know which one is better. For example, if there is an earthquake that kills people, you may say you feel sympathetic. After all, you imagine it must be awful living through that. But an empathetic person goes beyond. They feel the people's emotions. They can see families suffering. They think about people wanting aid, and thus donated to help the cause. Empathy just feels good to have when you want a rich life. Not only does it feel nice to respect people, but you'll get experiences out of it that help you grow. But empathy is hard to come by in the modern world, but that doesn't mean that if you lack empathy, you're a bad person. Everyone is programmed differently when it comes to empathy in the world, and in today's society, you can see why someone would look after themselves. You have bills to pay. You have careers to pursue. Life is stressful, and you can't think of every single homeless person who has it worse than you. You can't think about the people who may suffer if you get the promotion over them. Some people are naturally empathetic, while others have to learn it. Being more empathetic can also make you let go of your past. By seeing it through the other side, you may feel less hatred for who you think are your enemies, be it your ex, your boss, your parents, or so on. You can spend your time being positive instead of spending it hating others. If you're not a natural empathetic person, it may be a bit difficult to learn empathy, but not impossible. Think of someone who you haven't talked to. It can be a co-worker, someone who rides on the bus, or just your neighbor. Try talking to them. If they're willing to chat, get into a deep conversation to learn about their struggles and wishes. Being empathetic can also make you a better leader. For example, if you're a boss, you can empathize with your employees and treat them right. This doesn't mean that you let them walk all over you, but mean that you can improve their morale by not seeing them as another cog. A good leader will motivate their employees, while a bad leader will make the good employees flee the company while the others lose all motivation. How to bring out the humane side in you. Schedule a get-together with someone whom you don't seem to get along well with, and don't jump the gun by making an assumption. Have a deep quality conversation with that person. Be it with your boss, co-worker, neighbor, or even your ex-partner. Question yourself, how did the relationship become so bad? What causes it? Instead of avoiding and ignoring, try to understand what stems the relationship animosity. Avoid getting into a huge argument with whomever you are discussing with. Note, as you listen, don't let your biases get in the way. Some may have a hard time communicating with others because of the lens they view the world with, be it political, religious, or philosophical. Think about the situation through their point of view, and ask what should be done to help. If you find your emotions being affected because of their suffering or happiness, you're on your way. Your beliefs can change because of empathy. You're not going to change them just by listening to one person, but over time, you may find yourself questioning your own principles due to empathy. If you screw someone over for your gain, you may feel sorry for them and try to help. Sometimes, you have to be a little cutthroat to succeed, but that doesn't mean you have to be cruel, or not help out your coworkers. What is the purpose of your life? When it comes to our lives, everyone should have a purpose. Purpose can range from being realistic, such as getting a house, to a bit harder to accomplish, such as becoming a millionaire. Purpose is the motivation that keeps you fighting and going. Without purpose, life becomes meaningless. Even if you think you don't have a purpose, you probably do. It doesn't have to be an amazing achievement. You can improve on your hobbies, get a raise, or just put a little extra into your daily activities. While you may have purposes in your head, they may seem far out and hard to accomplish. Ignore those feelings, they are just noises to keep you distracted from reaching your purpose. Any purpose that is scientifically possible is possible. You can lose those pounds. You can get that job. And even if you don't fully reach the goal, the journey can teach you something. A bulletproof mind makes purposes and puts in all the effort to accomplish them. Write your purposes down and think about steps you can do to achieve it. Initially, it doesn't necessarily have to be a concrete plan, but a general path you can take first. Any path will have pit stops and detours, so keep that in mind when writing down your plan. A bulletproof mind will measure and manage your purposes as you go along.